Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Let us read 16th and 17th verse. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharaschaksharai Vacha Ksharas Sarvani Bhutani Kutastho Uchate Uttama Purushastvanyah Paramatmetyudarutaha Yo Lokatrayamavishya Bibhartavyaya Ishvaraha. Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharaschaksharevacha. In the 7th chapter we have seen the Prakriti was referred with a feminine gender as Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. And the Para Prakriti was referred as Jiva Bhuta Prakriti, but that also falls in the purview of Prakriti alone. Now here in the 15th chapter, it is now referred as Purusha, the masculine gender, which was called as Prakriti in the 7th chapter, is called as Purusha in the 15th chapter. Now here, one most important thing with the background of the 13th chapter, Kshetrajnam Chapi Mam Viddhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata, the Jiva is not brought at all in between as a thing to be concerned with. Therefore, when Bhagavan says that Ksharas Sarvani Bhutani Kutastaha Akshara Uchate, starting from Mahabhutani Ahankaraha Buddhi and Ichchadvesha Sukham Dukkham Sangatas Chetana Dhritihi, these fall in the purview of the Kshara Prakriti or Kshara Purusha rather. And Akshara Purusha was the Prakriti, the Bija Bhutani, the one which is the seed for all these modifications. Now, after having said this, we very clearly come to a conclusion that the Jiva, the soul, is none other than only a phenomena happening in the Prakriti, and it has nothing to do with the Purusha, the absolute Purushottama. Therefore, in the Prakriti now, or the matter aspect, what are the things that are included? First, the Prakriti, then Mahabhutani, Ahankaraha, Buddhi, the 8 of them, Ashtadha Prakriti, then their modification, Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sangatas, Chetana, Dhritihi, and in that Prakriti, the entry of the Absolute to reflect as a relative. But this is just a phenomena. And in this Prakriti, when the Absolute is reflected, it is referred as the Jiva, Jiva Bhuta. But the Jiva is basically and essentially Ishvara. See, in the 17th verse, this topic is brought out. Uttama Purushaha tu Anya Paramatma iti Udarutaha. This Uttama Purusha is other than the Kshara Akshara Purusha. So the Kshara Purusha includes the Prakriti, Akshara Purusha includes the Prakriti along with its modification, and in that Jiva Bhava is also included. And then comes the Uttama Purusha, who is basically Ishvara. Therefore, this Jiva is only a step to indicate the Ishvara, the one who is manifesting through the Prakriti but not getting conditioned by the Prakriti. It is something like, the pole vault jump. we have to go high up for crossing the height. Independently we cannot go. So what we do? We take the pole in the hand, come running, fix it in the soil and go up with that. But that doesn't mean that pole has helped us, therefore hold it on to, no, throw it away after some time. In the same manner, the Jiva Bhava or the soul is a step in between. It has not to be taken very seriously. It is necessary, no doubt, but that is not the ultimate. And therefore, these, all the modification, Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sangatas, Chetana, Dhruti, and the 7 aspects, they are Kshara, Kshara Purusha. Then Prakriti, Avyakta is the Akshara Purusha. And the reflection of the Paramatma in this Akshara Prakriti is called as Jiva if this reflection is a victim of the Prakriti or the conditioning. But basically, this Jiva is Ishvara. Because we have seen how he is Ishvara. Because when the Jiva leaves the body and goes from one body to another body, he doesn't leave his faculties behind. He carries them with him. That means these Jnanendriyas, Antakaran, etc. is under his control. Therefore he can carry. But when we are living in the present body, what happens? We become the victim of our sense organs, our mind, and this is how the Ishvara is reduced to the Jiva. So what is the technique therefore spiritual practice will be? Those who have full control over their senses, those who have full control over their mind, they will have invoked the Aishwarya, the divinity in them. And this is what our Patanjali Yoga Darshan told us. When we are able to do Sayyama on different aspects of the Prakriti, we are able to discover those various vibhutis. Therefore, this Jiva Bhava is only an in-between stage. But what happens? We get lost in that. And all the religions give this in-between step such a great importance that spirituality is nothing but a fearful existence of guilt and the fear of getting punishment because we have done this, we have done that. But the real approach to spirituality is to discover our own essential divinity. And therefore, in the 17th verse, we were told, Uttamaha, Utkrushtamaha Purushaha tu Anyaha, Atyanta Vilakshana Adhyam, Paramatma iti, Paravaha cha asau Atma, Dehadi Avidya Krutatma Bhyaha Atma cha Sarva Bhutanam, Pratyak Chetanaha Ityataha Paramatma iti Udarutaha, Uktaha Vedanteshu. Therefore, this Uttama Purusha is Utkrishtatama, is other than this Kshara and Akshara Purusha, and he is the essence of the total creation. Therefore, he is called as Paramatma. This was what we have seen according to Bhagwan Shankaracharya's commentary. Now let us think from other angle. We will see from other angle is the angle of grammar. You know, in our Sanskrit grammar we use 3 persons. In English, what we call as first, second and third person. In Sanskrit, we call the third person of English as first person. The second person as the Madhyama Purush. So the third person of English is called as Pratham Purush. The second person of English is called as Madhyama Purush. And the first person of English is called as Uttama Purush. The whole life is a transaction between 3 persons. I, the first person, talk to you, the second person, about that, the third person. See? This is how our whole life is conducted. A business between first person and second person about the third person. Now, out of these 3 persons, who is the most important? Unless the first person is there, second person and third person has no importance. But the first person can exist independent of the second person and the third person. Meaning, when I am not talking or thinking about the third person, still I continue to exist. When I am not talking to the second person, still I continue to exist. So this Uttama Purusha is independent of the second person and the third person. So here the second person is the Prakriti and the third person is the modification of the Prakriti. So when we are thus able to recognize that this absolute I manifesting through the conditioning of the matter becomes a relative I, and because of this relativity in the I, the whole samsara, the relative existence is created. But this relative I, the jiva, is dependent on the absolute I, Purushottama. But the Purushottama, the supreme absolute reality, is independent for its existence on the relative world. And therefore, this Uttama Purusha is called as Paramatma. See how simple and beautiful it is. That is why it is called as Purusha. Pratham Purusha, Madhyam Purusha and Uttama Purusha. So, depending on this, now let us see where is our attention when we deal with in this world. If our attention is on the third person all the time, there are people who always talk about the third person. What can we label them? Third class. They have nothing better in this world except the third person. So which are the third persons that can be included? The world of matter and the people. He is like that, she is like that, this is like that, that is like that. All the time lost in the third person. They can never discover this Purushottama. The persons who all the time think, worry and talk only about themselves. And who is that themselves? Is only the relative I, the suffering I, the jiva. So those who refer all the time about themselves and nothing else, they will be called as the persons giving importance to the first person. So they will be the first class fools. Rather than giving the importance to the first person, we discover who is this I. Unless we discover who am I, our spiritual practice will not be complete. And therefore, when we are dealing in this world, what should be done? Give importance to the second person. So when we talk to anybody in this world, they are more important than our own worries and frustration. And we have no business to get involved in the third person at all. So by this verse, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives us a beautiful scheme of spiritual practice. And he is called as Uttama, therefore Purushottama. This is one vision. Uttama Purushaha tu anya Paramatma iti udarutaha. Now what this Uttam Purusha does? Yaha lokatrayam avishya bibharti avyaya ishvaraha. The other day I told you, Bhagavan Shankaracharya is giving the view from the Adi Daivik point of view. What I am giving you in addition to what Bhagavan Shankara has given is the Adhyatmic, so that we can apply it for our spiritual practice. Now here, jo lokatrayam avishya bibharti avyaya ishvaraha. Now this Paramatma, who is referred as the Purushottama, the Supreme Self, the Absolute Reality, is supporting the three lokas. Bhagavan Shankara told here, Lokatraya, Bhurbhuvasvarakhyam. Bhurbhuvasvaha, these three worlds. This is from the Adi Daivik point of view, totality point of view. But when we take our subjective, what it will mean? It will mean Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti. So the one who is supporting all the three experiences, the experiences of the waking, the experiences of the dream, and the experiences of the deep sleep. Do you remember in the 15th verse, we have taken similar kind of meaning? Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha mattaha smriti jnanam apohanancha. I alone support Jnana, Smriti and Apohanam. Jnanam is waking. The Smriti is dream. And Apohanam, negation of the knowledge and the memory, is the deep sleep. So all these three kinds of experiences, the immediate experience of the waking, the memory experiences of the dream, and the absence of the objective experiences in the deep sleep, all of them are supported by one common factor, which does not become a waker in the waking state, who doesn't become the dreamer in the dream state, who does not sleep in the deep sleep state. Thereby, the Jiva Bhava is not created. This is another principle I told you. Take it very deeply in your understanding. As we do not create a dream personality out of seeing many dreams, there is no logic, there is no reason which can justify that there is a waking personality when we are going through the waking experiences. See? Very important. Because there is no practically any difference between the waking and the dream. Not only that, we never dream as a dream. We always dream as a real experience. After we live that experience, then we label it as a dream. Therefore, in the same manner, this waking dream, when we leave this and come to realize our absolute nature, then when we look back, as when we look back to our dreams, don't we laugh that how fool I was, that I was unnecessarily afraid of the tiger in the dream. It was my mind alone which was playing fool as a tiger. It was my mind alone who was playing the fool as a person afraid of the tiger. In the same manner, when this Purushottama is recognized, that Uttamaha Purushaha tu Anyaha, he is other than the waker, the dreamer and the deep sleep. Therefore, he is Ishvaraha. So, yo lokatrayama avishya bibharti avyaya Ishvaraha. Now see, one more word is added by the Lord. Avyaya Ishvaraha. The waker keeps on changing. Sometime happy, sometime miserable. Sometime miserable, sometime miserable. Because miserable is more, happy is less. So, this Jiva is Jiva only when the worldly experiences are influencing. If he is not touched by them, see, Patanjali Yoga Darshan, Prakriti asansprishta Purusha Visheshaha Ishvaraha. The one who is not touched by the modification of the conditioning is called as the Ishvara. Therefore, we are simultaneously Jiva and the Ishvara. Remember the mantra we just recently studied? Shveta Shvetar Upanishad, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya, Samanam Ruksham Parishashva Jate, Tayor Anyaha Pippalam Swadumati, Anashnan Anyaha Avichakashiti. Experience remains the same. One part of ours becomes influenced by the experience and becomes miserable. The other part of ours only illuminates that experience and does not become miserable. So this miserable entity is the Jiva. And the one who is not influenced by is the Ishvara. And therefore, this is a very important topic. Miseries can be attributed to Prakriti or anything else. We are all miserable or we are all happy by our own choice. And when we have opted to be miserable, nobody can help us. But once we discover this, yaha lokatrayama avishya avyayaha ishvaraha. So, this Ishvara Tattva, if we want to discover, this is the only way that we go through the experiences, but do not give so much importance to anything in this world that will disturb our peace of mind. Remember another principle I have been emphasizing again and again. Those who become miserable because of anything or anybody, they are fools of the highest order. Don't justify that you are miserable because of this or because of that. You will reduce to the Jiva Bhava. It is our choice. If we refuse to be miserable, God will become miserable, that He cannot make us miserable. But if we cooperate with the misery because you have got a very cooperative nature, then continue to be miserable. Therefore, Uttama Purushaha tu Anya Paramatma iti Udarutaha Yaha Lokatrayam Avishya Vibharti Avyaya Ishvaraha. So He alone enters this phenomena of the relative existence and supports the waking dream and the deep sleep. In this manner, it is only the crisis of our correct identity as to whether we identify ourselves as a limited being with reference to the conditioning of the Panchakoshas, or we are able to identify ourselves as the pure conscious reality manifesting through all the Panchakoshas, not only my Panchakoshas, but through all the Panchakoshas. If this is happening, then we have understood this Uttama Purusha. And therefore, Yatha Vyakyatasya Ishwarasya Purushottamaha iti etad nama prasiddham tasya nama nirvachana prasidhya arthavatvam namnaha darshayati niradishaya aham ishvaraha iti atmanam darshayati Bhagavan. Therefore, here Bhagavan Sri Krishna says that Yatha Vyakyatasya Ishwarasya, as we have explained up to the 17th verse, Yatha Vyakyatasya Ishwarasya Purushottamaha iti nama prasiddham. Now this Ishvara is referred as Purushottama. See, in Mahabharata, a shloka comes where it is said, he who is recognized as great by the saints and sages, by the king, and by the wise people of the world, he is called as Purushottama. And in all these three categories, Bhagavan Sri Krishna falls. And therefore, why he is called as Purushottama, Bhagavan now tells. Tasya nama nirvachana prasidhya arthavatvam namnaha nirdeshayati. So why I am called Purushottama by the world and in the scriptures? The reason is given in the 18th verse. Yasmat ksharamati toham aksharadapi chottamaha atosmi loke vedecha prathita purushottamaha. Prathitaha, I am popularly known as, I am recognized by this name as Purushottama. What is the reason? Yasmat, because Ksharam atitaha aham, I am beyond the Kshara Purusha. Now see, in this is the technique we have seen. Adhyaropa apavadabhyam ayam prapanchaha. By the technique of superimposition and desuperimposition, the truth is revealed. The unknown is reached through the agency of the known. Known is superimposition, and the unknown is that which is reached after desuperimposition. So, first of all, the teacher will explain through superimposition. Yasmat ksharam atitaha aham, because I am beyond the Kshara Purusha. Kshara is also Purusha, Akshara is also Purusha, and Purushottama is also Purusha. It's a very subtle thought. Be extremely attentive. You know, out of love, we call our children by different names. Mohan, Sohan, Munnu. So you call by first name, Mohan, he doesn't come. Sohan is Raja, he doesn't come. Are Munnu? What is that, mommy? Constantly shouting. This is the reply. And then you as a third person expect that when three fellows were called, three will come. But only one Ekameva Aditi has come. But Amma, you have called three people. How come? Oh, this one Rakshasa only we call by three different names. In the same manner, Purushottama is one. And the same Purushottama is called as the Akshara Purusha, and the same Purushottama is called as Akshara Purusha. See? This is the secret in this 18th verse. Yasmat Ksharamati Toham. I am beyond Atitaha. I am beyond Kshara Purusha. Now what is the Kshara Purusha? Samsara Maya Vruksham Ashvatthakhyam Atikrantaha Aham. Because I am beyond the relativity of this tree of samsara, what was referred in the first verse. Now go back to the first verse. Urdhva moolamadasyakam ashvatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavid. There what we have discussed? That he who is able to recognize the unchanging reality behind the total changing phenomena, he alone has learnt and understood the meaning of the Vedas, not otherwise. Then what is the position of this relative world? The relative world is merely superimposed on the unchanging substratum. Because world is what? Gacchati iti jagat. That which is constantly changing is the world, and no change can be established without the unchanging factor. And therefore, what we call as the Kshara Purusha is referring to the substratum and not the superimposition. But what happens? We are so preoccupied with the changes in the world that the substratum is overlooked. And therefore, we start suffering in this world. So it is something like, we are seeing Paramatma, but we are calling that Paramatma as Jagat, the world. It is something like, we are seeing the ocean, but we call it as the waves. We are seeing the waters, but we call the waters as the ocean. And then we become intelligent, the whole problem of life. What is the problem, this intelligence problem? That the ocean is the cause and waves are the effect. So first of all, you have created two things which are nowhere. One is the waves, second is the ocean. And then you have named them as the cause and the effect. But in the water, there is neither the ocean nor the waves, neither the cause nor the effect. But we are so preoccupied either with the waves or the ocean that the water is forgotten. In the same manner, we are so preoccupied either with the world, the waves, or the ocean, the I. So we get caught up in these two places. Either the objective world or the subjective experiencer. And the whole duality is sustained by this I versus you relativity. Therefore here, Yasmat Ksharati Toham. But if you ask me from my standpoint, water will say that neither the ocean nor the wave are in me. Yasmat Ksharamati Toham. Therefore, Samsara Maya Vruksham Ashwathakyam Atikrantaha Aham. I am far beyond the limitations of the objective existence. Then Aksharadapi cha uttamaha. Aksharadapi samsara vriksha bija bhutat api. So what is the seed of this world of relativity? Is this avyakta namna paramesha shakti, this divine power of the Lord called as the Maya or avyakta or the Prakriti, whatever way you call it. So samsara vriksha bija bhutat api. Even I am superior beyond the limitations of the Prakriti. So by these two things, what is meant? That I am beyond the Kshara Purusha and the Akshara Purusha. In the 13th chapter, what was the word used? Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. So there also Kshetra was referred in two ways. One was the Kshetra and second was the modifications of the Kshetra. So Mahabhutanyahankaro Buddhir Avyaktamevacha, that was the Avyakta Ashtadha Prakriti. And Ichcha Dvesha Sukham Dukkham Sangatas Chetana Dhruti, those were the modification. So Savikaram Udarutam. So these, out of these, the 23 principles, Mahabhutanyahankara Buddhi 7 and Indriyani Dashekam cha Panchachendriya Gocharaha 16. So in this manner, these 23 of them fall in the purview of the Kshara Purusha. And the Prakriti Avyakta is the Akshara Purusha. So this Paramatma's Prakriti cannot stand independent of or apart from this Paramatma Tattva. And therefore, Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharadapi Uttamaha. I am Uttamaha, Utkrishtatamaha, Urdhvatamo va. See the word which we have seen in the first verse, Urdhva Moola Madashakam. So Uttama, Utkrishtatama or Urdhvatamaha. And here also I explained you this usage of the word Tama. Taratamya Pratyay, this is called as technically the infinitive, comparative and the superlative. Like good, better and the best. So here the Kshara Prakriti or Kshara Purusha is Ut. The Akshara Prakriti or the Akshara Purusha is Uttara. And the Paramatma is Uttama. So Kshara and the Akshara Purushas, they are the effect and the cause. So Akshara Purusha becomes the cause and the Kshara Purusha becomes the effect. But Paramatma is beyond them. So that which is beyond the cause and the effect is called as Uttama, Urdhvam Va, or it is beyond the relativity. So the absolute is the Purushottama and the relative is the the Kshara Purusha and the Akshara Purusha. So Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharaadapi cha uttamaha. Ataha Ksharaksharaabhyam uttamatvad asmi bhavami loke vede cha pratitaha prakhyataha purushottamaha iti. This being the case, that I am beyond the Kshara Purusha and the Akshara Purusha, therefore loke vede cha, in the worldly way and also in the Vedas, I am pratitaha, prakhyataha. I am known to the world by this name Purushottama. Iti evam mam bhakta janaha vidu kavayaha kavyadishu idam nama nibadnanti Purushottama iti anena abhidhanena abhigrunanti. So either the wise people or those who are the poets who want to write something about me, so they use this word Purushottama, keeping this understanding in their mind. So Yasmat Charamati Toham Aksharadapi Chottamaha Atosmi Loke Vedecha Pratitaha Purushottamaha. So what we have understood now is said in the 19th verse. Atha idanim Yatha niruktam atmanam yo veda tasya idam phalamuchyate. Now, in this 19th verse, Yatha niruktam atmanam yo veda. Yatha niruktam. Niruktam nishtayena uktam. That what is distinctly, clearly, finally said about the absolute reality. Niruktam. So, yatha niruktam atmanam, about the self. Yo veda, he who comes to realize this, tasya idam phalamuchyate. What happens to him? The result of this recognition of the absolute self that we are. What happens? This is said in the 19th verse. Yo mamevamasambudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Yaha, now here Bhagavan does not bring any other criteria about who. Yaha means anyone. Yaha mam janati, he who knows me. First. Who is that he who knows me? He is asammudaha, the first and the most important thing. Fools do not recognize the wise. Asammudaha, the one who is no more under the delusion of his own identity. Therefore, this is the basic principle. The truth can never be recognized as other than the self. If the truth is recognized as other than the self, it will be inert. If the truth is recognized as other than the self, it will be projection by the mind. If the truth is recognized as other than the self, it will lead to the duality. And of such a reality, such a God, who is recognized other than I, will be a source of fear. See? Therefore, yo mam evam asammudaha janati purushottamam. Yo mam ishwaram yathokta visheshanam. Evam means what? Yathoktena prakarena. Two things. First of all, we have to recognize this absolute reality. Evam means what is said in the last 3-4 verses. First of all, Bhagavan has started this topic from the 15th verse. Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta krut veda videvachaham. So I am the one who is the source of all the knowledge. I am the one who comes in our life in the form of the teacher, and I am the one who knows the truth. And for that, the attention is to be focused. Mattaha smriti jnanam apoharancha. This is the practice, spiritual practice. Because of me, mattaha, jnanam, the waking experiences are possible. Because of me, smriti, all the dream experiences are possible. And because of me, apohanan, all the deep sleep experiences are possible. And therefore, this absolute I is playing on the stage of relativity as a waker sometime, as a dreamer sometime, as a deep sleeper sometime. But in fact, he has never been a waker, dreamer or the deep sleeper. If this we can understand through an example of a man who is playing the role of a husband with reference to the conditioning of the wife, who is playing the role of a father with conditioning of the children, who is playing the role of a son with the conditioning of his father, and if he is not influenced by the wife, by the children, or by the parents, then he is Purushottama. See? And his existence is independent of what is happening to all the three conditioning. Because if I is not there, there cannot be my wife. If I is not there, there cannot be my children. If I is not there, there cannot be my parents. So this I is the substratum on which all the relatives and the conditionings are dependent. But this man is independent in the same manner. Here, all these three areas of experience, waking, dream and the deep sleep, like the waves come and go on the ocean in the same manner. How many times we dreamed? How many times we were awake? How many times we slept? But it all has been coming and going incessantly. To come to this point, there are many techniques which we have seen. Nirmana moha jita sangadosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha sanjnaihi gachanti amudhaha padam avyayam tat. Here also the same word is used by Lord. Yo mam eva asammudhaha gachanti asammudhaha padam avyayam tat. So that is the spiritual practice which was told in the 5th verse. So, to bring the spiritual practice in our cognition, let us take one example. See, it is something like, if we have to see whether the total rice is cooked or not, we don't have to take every grain and crush it. Only one you take as a sample and see. And once you know that one grain perfectly well, everything is known. Now how do we do this? Now this technique which I am going to tell you, be extremely attentive. Mind is the instrument which is creating relativity because of the birth of time. Mind is always hungry about the sequence. The moment sequence is arrested, mind disappears. And when we arrest the sequence, we come in the absolute present. Absolute present without the past and the future is no more present also. Then what it is? Then it is only the presence. So that presence where the thoughts of the past, yasmat charam atitoham, and the thoughts about the future are no more disturbing the present. Now in that state, we have reached the absolute conscious self that we are. Now be very attentive. Now this conscious self that we are, don't concentrate. The moment you will concentrate, it will become an object of knowledge. Then be extremely aware, not becoming concentrating on something as it is something other than yourself. No. In this process of self-awareness, this Purushottama is recognized as one's own self. Yo mam evam asammudaha. Asammudaha. Eva mam janati. See, this word eva is one of the most beautiful words in Sanskrit literature. It can play tricks. For example, yaha mam janati saha eva asammudaha. He who knows me, he alone is wise. Second thing, yaha asammudaha saha eva mam janati. The one who is wise, he alone knows me. The third one, mam janati eva. We don't have to do anything, just recognition of the truth. But what happens, we have been, living in this world constantly with a struggle to do this or that. And as a result of this habit of doing this or that, we want to do spiritual practice. And when we insist for doing the spiritual practice, then what the teachers can do? They tell, very good, you are a very sincere seeker. Now start observing fast on every Monday. For how many Mondays? 16 Mondays. Why 16? 32 Mondays. Why 32? 64 Mondays. Okay, I'll do it. Like when you get some punishment in the court, you have been speeding, do you agree or not? You have to pay the fine of 200 rupees. But sir, it was not only me who was speeding, 400 rupees fine. Do you agree or not? But what is this? Only I am being caught, 800 rupees fine. Okay, I pay. Here the same truth. There is nothing to argue about. Yaha mam janati eva. No, I want to do something. Tell me something to do. No, continue. 64 Somvar. Then what will happen? Next time you will not come to me and I am protected by Lord Shiva. Friends, all spiritual practice is only becoming aware of our own self. And when we become aware of our own self, you will see all the problems of thought formation, worries, they dissolve. They have no place. This is the meaning. Mam evam janati. This is the only way to know. Not objectively. Evam, in this manner, as we have told in the 15th chapter of Gita. What is that? Yasmat kharamati toham aksharat avichottamaha atosmi loke vedecha prathitaha purushottamaha. In this way, he who recognizes himself, yo mam evam asammudaha janati purushottamam. In the spiritual field, knowing is being. In the material field, knowing is not being. See the difference? When I know this pencil, I don't become the pencil. But in the case of the truth, knowing the truth and being the truth, these are not two things. It's one and the same. Because Sat itself is Chit. They are not two. We cannot say that the experience of my being and being consciousness, this experience is in a sequence. No. This experience is a simultaneous experience where being and knowing is one. Therefore, yaha mam evam asammudaha janati purushottamam. And this is one of the difficulties for the intelligent people who are unnecessarily educated. The educated, intelligent, educated illiterates technically are called as Rakshasas. Because you know how the word Rakshasa is formed? Sakshara means educated. And when you read the word Sakshara like Urdu, it becomes Rakshasa. And what is the Rakshasatva of the educated people? Everything is recognized objectively. Objectification in the knowledge is ignorance. See? That knowledge where objectivity has disappeared and there is only the subject without the object. Kshetrajnam chapimam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. See? When we are thus able to recognize this ultimate absolute subject, yo mam evam asammudaha purushottamam janati, then what happens to him? Saha sarvavit sarvatmana sarvam vetti iti sarvajnyaha sarvabhutastham. The two things. Saha sarvavit. He alone has known everything. Now see, what is the meaning of knowing everything? Knowing that the subject-object duality is superimposed on this absolute reality where duality does not have any existence at all. In the water there is nothing like ocean or the waves. So, saha sarvavit, sarvatmana, by being everything. Everything means the Triputi, the knower, known knowledge, the experienced, experience and experiencer. All this sarvatmana, sarvam vetti, and he comes to recognize that all the three components of every experience are superimposed on me, the absolute. Sarvatmana sarvam vetti iti sarvajnyaha. In this manner, he is the real sarvajnya, the knower of everything by being everything. This is the meaning of sarvajnyaha. So, saha sarvajnyaha sarvabhuta sthitam mam sarvabhavena sarvatmachittataya bhajati. Now, what is his experience? His experience is oneness with the totality. Sarvatmana vetti. He recognizes himself being the self of the totality. Now, what effort and struggle will the water have to take to recognize that I am the ocean and I am the wave? Zero. Second thing, what will happen with this knowledge? Water will not be afraid of getting drowned in the ocean or will not be afraid of getting broken when a wave breaks. So, the fear and the competition will disappear from the life, and we will be able to experience that peace which is beyond the conceptual peace of Shanti and Ashanti, the peace and absence of peace. Saha sarvavid bhajati mam. Mam sarvabhutastam bhajati. Bhajati means what? We have seen this word when we studied Bhajya Govindam. There are three meanings. Saha sarvavid bhajati mam. One is bhaja sevayam. He serves everybody. Even to say that he serves everybody is a compromise in a statement, because when everybody is not recognized as other, where is the question of he serves everybody? Like, my throat became dry, so I took a glass and drank water. So now will the throat say to the hand, thank you so much, yaar, I was feeling dry? No. There is no sense of otherness. Therefore, serving also does not become an act. See? When service becomes an act, we want to be recognized as the social servants, Samaj Sevak. So, saha sarvavid bhajati mam. The second meaning is bhajati is bhajanam, singing the glory of the Lord. And when this happens, you are never disturbed by anything in this world. Please remember, how do we know whether we have forgotten the Lord or not? This thing what I am telling you is something totally different than the routine. How do we know that we have forgotten the Lord? Whenever we have become depressed, miserable, angry, frustrated, recognize that we have forgotten the God. Paramatma is Ananda Swarupa. If you remain cheerful and happy, you are in tune with the divine. This is how, many times when people ask, when I tell them, the other day somebody asked, Swamiji, yes, I can do anything for you. So only two things I ask. And they feel, this is just a joke. And the two things were, refuse to be miserable and remain cheerful. That is the highest service to the society. When I told in Rajasthan somebody this thing, he said, Swami, I don't understand you at all. My being happy, how it will serve you? It will serve me. I said, no, it will serve me also. How? There will be one less miserable fellow coming to me. It's a great service. So, saha sarvavid bhajati mam. Second meaning. Singing the glory of the Lord, you will be all the time cheerful. And third, he who is keeping himself in tune with the divine theme in and through every action of life. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat tapashyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. So our attitude is the attitude of a devotee and not that of a votee. We don't vote in favor of any duality. We have devoted. Saha sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Sarva bhavena, from all the bhava. The bhava of seva, the bhava of friend, the bhava of a servant, the bhava of a master, any way you take. Saha sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena. Sarva bhavena in every form. The Lord can come in our life in any form, any time. Sarva bhavena bharata. Sarva bhavena under every condition. It is not that when everything is fine, then I oblige God by appreciating. Bhagwan ki daya se theek ho gaya. And when something doesn't happen according to our choice, we feel the Lord is against us, punishing us. No, Lord cannot punish us. Like the sun cannot give darkness. In the same manner, He knows what is best for us. And that alone happens. And the more we become aware of the divine grace in our life, the more cheerful and happy we remain. Therefore, the moment you become depressed, dejected, frustrated, get out of it. You are in the lap of the Lord. Saha sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. In this manner, recognizing this absolute reality as one's own self will change the attitude, will change the experiences, will change the interaction with the world. And this is what is the ultimate message of Bhagavad Gita. Asmin adhyaye Bhagavad tattva jnanam moksha phalam uktva atha idanim tarstauti. Now in this chapter, 15th chapter, Bhagavad tattva jnanam, all the tattva is the essence. So the essence about the reality was uktam, was told, and also moksha phalam. And also this is what the liberation means was revealed. So uktva, having said this, atha idanim tat stauti, now this knowledge is glorified, so that we will be prompted to walk this path shown in the 15th chapter. Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat कृतकृत्यश्च भारत एतद् इति एतद् गुह्यतमं गोप्यतमं अत्यंत रहस्यम इति एतद् किम तत् शास्त्रम. So we have told you guhyatamam, the most secret, rahasyatamam, atyanta rahasyam. There is nothing more secret than this. And what is that? Shastram. See, the 15th chapter is referred by Bhagwan himself as the Shastra. Bhagwan Shankara says, Yadyapi Gitakyam samastam shastram uchyate, tathapi ayam eva adhyayaha iha shastram iti uchyate stutyartham prakaranat. Although the whole Bhagavad Gita is the Gita Shastram idam punyam, it is the whole Bhagavad Gita of 18th chapter is the Shastra, yet this particular 15th chapter is referred by Bhagwan himself as the Shastra. Shastra is what? Shastra is that which deals exhaustively about the relativity, about the reality, about the spiritual practice, about the obstacles on the path of spiritual evolution, and above all the techniques used so that we can reach the absolute, where every aspect of the spiritual life is included and explained exhaustively, is called as Shastra. And this is all done in this chapter. Therefore, Shastram सर्वो ही गीता शास्त्रार्थः अस्मिन् अध्याये समासेन उक्तः न केवलं सर्वः च वेदार्थ इति परिसमाप्तः यस्तं वेद स वेदविद् वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यः इति च उक्तम्. And why this is called as Shastra? Because in this 15th chapter, Sarvo Gitarthaha, the total summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita is Asmin Adhyaye Samasena Uktaha, is presented in a very few words. And not only this, but Sarvaha cha Vedarthaha iti Parisamaptaha, and the whole Vedic knowledge is summarized in this chapter. Now see the concentration. It is like, zipping the files. Vedas are 4. Essence of the Vedas is contained in the Upanishads. Upanishads are more than 1128. And all those Upanishads which are recognized, recorded, all of them, when they are made more concentrated, then Bhagavad Gita is born. So Bhagavad Gita is concentrated Upanishads. Upanishad is concentrated Vedas. And the 15th chapter is concentrated Bhagavad Gita. You can imagine. And therefore, this 15th chapter, if we contemplate, reflect on that, that is why this is suggested to be chanted every day before taking food. The more you keep on chanting and contemplating on the meaning given in this 15th chapter, your understanding will become very clear. And clearer the understanding, higher is the spiritual progress. So, Sarva Vedartaha iha parisamaptaha, because Bhagavan himself said, Yastam Veda sa Vedavit in the first verse, and Vedaischa Sarvai Rahameva Vedyaha in the 15th verse. Iti cha uktam. Idam uktam kathitam maya he anagha he apapa. He anagha. Anagha is a person who has freed himself from the papa, from the sin. See, agham means papam. Agha means what? No hanyate bhogam vina iti aghamam. This definition I had given you in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita when we were discussing that that agha means papa which cannot be bypassed, which we have to go through. Hana dhatu is there. So, agham na hanyate bhogam vina iti agham. It is something like, suppose you are given some prize, recognition, award. Then we give you Bharat Ratna. Why? Because you have not created any problem for anybody so far. Therefore, we give you Bharat Ratna. You can say, no, I am very busy. So I can send my friend. My friend, please go and take, or you are in Delhi, go and take on my behalf. That I can avoid, I can reject. But suppose I have killed somebody. This is just an example, okay? Suppose I have killed somebody and I get, the degree, award, that you are, to be hanged to death. I said, I am very busy. I tell the same friend, last time you went for that Rashtrapati award, now go for this. No. There is no proxy. Punya you can avoid. Papa you cannot. Agham means the one who is free from the papa. Now be very attentive. What is the highest papa? Height of sin. Don't forget this verse I told you from Valmiki Ramayana. Anyatha santamatmanam anyatha pratipadyate kim tena na krutam papam chorena atma pahana. We are essentially Satchidananda, but starts behaving as if we are the sinful jiva. This is the highest sin. Therefore, for all practical purposes, we are all hypocrites. Who is the hypocrite? He who presents himself what he is not is called a hypocrite. We present ourselves as if we are not Satchidananda and all the time miserable. Therefore, he anagha. So, idam uktam yatha kathitam maya he anaga papa etat shastram yatha darshitartham buddha buddhiman syad bhaved na anyatha krutakrityaha cha bharata. So by knowing this alone, you will have the right understanding. Buddhiman syad means right understanding. With this alone, you will have the right understanding about the truth. And not only that, na anyatha, and krutakrityascha bharata. And you will attain krutakrityata. Now what is krutakrityata? Krutam krityam kartavam yena sa krutakrityaha vishishta janma prasudena brahmanena yat kartavyam tat sarvam bhagavat tattve vidite krutam bhaved ityartha. The purpose of our human life is fulfilled only when we come to recognize our essential nature. Na cha anyatha kartavyam parisamapyate kasyachit iti abhiprayaha. There is no other way we can be freed from the load and burden of this karma and the duties towards the world or towards anything. Because Bhagavan said, Sarvam karma kilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Because hey Arjun, in the 4th chapter we are told, all the karma ultimately disappears in the fire of knowledge. And this is said in Manusmriti also, etadhi janma samagram brahmanasya visheshataha prapye tat krutakrityo hi dvijo bhavati nanyataha. This is the only purpose of human birth. That we come to realize this truth. All other things will have a position like a scenario on the railway platform. So many people come and go, use the platform and go in the same manner. All the good and the bad thoughts, all the good and the bad events, all the success and failure, it comes on the platform of this consciousness. And it has nothing to do with this reality that we are. Hold on to this, hold on to this. Yat etat paramartha tattvam mattaha shrutavanasi tat krutartaha tvam bharata iti. Now, hey Bharata, hey Arjun, you have heard from me the absolute truth. And therefore, you have become krutartha. There is nothing more to be known. Kruta artha, you have fulfilled your life. Now here, one very important word, iti guhyatamam shastra. Now this I will explain in addition to what Bhagavan Shankaracharya said. See, guhyatamam, again this word tama has come number of times here. One is guhya shastra, second is guhyatara shastra, and third is guhyatama shastra. Guhya shastra is dharma shastra. What we should do, what we should not do, all these things, the do's and don'ts of life. This is the dharma shastra. Then second is guhyatara shastra, is upasana shastra. What the dharma shastra does, if you do this thing you will go to hell, if you do this thing you will go to heaven, if you do this thing you are accruing or collecting sin, if you do this thing you are collecting the merit, and based on your sins and merits your next life is determined. This is the lowest kind of knowledge. See, but most of the people get enchanted by this. Little superior than this is the upasana shastra. In upasana shastra, you get out of the limitation of the inertness of karma. Remember Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi? Karturajnaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tad jadam. Karma is jada by itself. It has no touch of consciousness. Therefore, we have to come out of the dharma and the karma and enter in the kingdom of devotion so that we are nearer to the consciousness. So, guhyatara shastra is upasana shastra. So, only by karma, nothing is achieved in life. Therefore, we bring in the second element of devotion. And with devotion, when we start doing anything, our attitude of success and failure becomes secondary, because now we are more concerned about our love for the Lord for whom we are doing something. Friends, that heart in which love is kindled is enlivened by the touch of consciousness. That heart which is dry only, leading only on the foundation of logic. I believe in logic. By logic, no problems are solved. The other day, when I was in Cochin, I received one SMS from one of the earlier students. Swamiji, I had to go and give a lecture series before the people with lot of logic and reason. And I do not know what I should talk, so please explain me, give some topic, and also tell me the textbook which I should follow. So I sent him SMS. I said, topic you take. Life is love, not logic. And subject, this is, then what is the topic, textbook? As I refer textbook, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita tells everything. There is nothing lacking in Gita. Now cull out the respective verses from the Gita and develop this topic slowly. Then you will come to know love is the gateway to the divinity. We have seen in Narad Bhakti Sutra, Phalarupatvat, because love is the way and love is the goal. Therefore, when we study this Bhakti Shastra, the science of devotion, we are in the Guhyatara Shastra. So Guhya Shastra is Dharma Shastra, Guhyatara is Upasana Shastra, and when we do Upasana or devotion, then the third thing comes in our heart. The fire to know the truth becomes intense. And that is the knowledge about the absolute self. In the language of devotion, it is called as the Parabhakti. So, Guhyatamam Shastram is indicated in this 15th chapter. Iti Guhyatamam Shastram idamuktam mayanagha. And to whom this knowledge can be given? Only to the Anagha. Anagha, he who is free from the sins of relative existence. This relative existence will have the same story everywhere. You know what happens? When a child loses his tooth for the first time, our tongue goes only to that place where there is no tooth. Where there are other teeth, there the tongue doesn't go. In the same manner, what the Lord has given us in our total life, mouthful, those teeth.
शांति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।